Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Craig Peterson here. You can find me on pretty much any podcast platform that's out there. One of the easiest ways is to go to craigpeterson.com/whatever your favorite podcast mechanism is. iTunes is kind of the 500-pound gorilla. They're not the 800 anymore. They're just 500. And you can get there by craigpeterson.com/iTunes, craigpeterson.com/Spotify, craigpeterson.com/TuneIn. Whatever your favorite might be, you'll find me right there. So let's get into our next kind of controversial topic. And this has to do with President Trump's ban. Now, it went into effect on May 1st, so it's been around for a couple of weeks. It seemed to be something that was released kind of at the spur of the moment. And it has to do with cybersecurity and the critical infrastructure. Now, you probably know that I ran for a couple of years the FBI's InfraGard webinar training programs, and we did a whole bunch of training on critical infrastructure stuff. That's really kind of the mandate for InfraGard. But critical infrastructure now, just look at all of the jobs with COVID-19 that were considered critical. Critical infrastructure really encompasses most of the economy nowadays. Even law offices are considered critical infrastructure, he said with a chuckle. Now, that can be a problem. It can be good. It can be bad. It really kind of all depends, right? But bottom line, when I'm talking about critical infrastructure, I'm talking about the infrastructure that literally runs the country. There's one of the most overused words in the English language, literally. But in this case, it really does. We're talking about the infrastructure that controls our electric grid, the infrastructure that controls our telephones, our smart devices, obviously the infrastructure that controls the internet, the infrastructure that controls our sewage systems, our water systems, the whole electric grid all the way up to our houses. That is the major part of critical infrastructure. Obviously, our roads are considered critical infrastructure, and the bridges and all of the ways of maintaining them. That's all pretty darn critical, because without those, commerce comes to a slowdown, dramatic, and maybe a grinding halt, and people die. Think about what happens if a whole region loses power, which happened here back in 2004, I guess. And I think that was the most recent time, and it happened in a very big way in, was it 86 up in Quebec? And the one in Quebec was because of a bit of solar activity. And the one here, I've seen attributed to a bunch of things. The most recent one was that our power outage was probably done because of a probe into our electric grid, looking to see if they could potentially hack it, and it ended up tripping at one of these sites, one of these major sites that is used for distributing electricity, and then that tripped another, and before we know it, we had a major cascade failure. So all of that stuff is very, very critical. If you've been in a hospital, you know how much they eat electricity. Now, hospitals, of course, have generators for the most part, and that's an important thing for them to have, right? You want to be able to have power if the power goes out. So, okay, I get that, and that's a very good thing. But at some point, if you don't have access to, let's say, the diesel to run the generators, or maybe they're natural gas generators, and you can't run those, what ultimately can you trust if you're a hospital? Because if the whole region loses power, so let's say New England, we lost power in all of the New England states, including New York State, New York City, maybe New Jersey. So we're talking about a 5-hour car ride in order to get beyond where this particular power outage occurred. That means even people that have generators are going to run out of fuel because the gas stations aren't going to work. Most of them don't have pumps. So the trucks can't really deliver it because the gas station doesn't have electricity. They can't be on. They just don't know what's happening. So they're going to have to send trucks to New Jersey or someplace to try and pick up diesel. And if it's even more broad, to say we had another Carrington event, like what happened in the mid-1800s, where there was a major solar flare that knocked out everything in the country. Now, back in the mid-1800s, that wasn't such a big deal. Today, it would be huge. So between those two, obviously having a more localized power failure is better. How about the sewage where it all backs up maybe into the streets? How about the water supply where we just can't get water because it's shut down? So many of these devices are now part of our Internet of Things, and that's a real problem. So President Trump signed this executive order that prohibits operators of the United States power grids to buy and to install electrical equipment that's been manufactured outside of the U.S. They're even going so far as to provide funding and finances to remove some of this equipment from our electrical infrastructure. You probably already know that we are not allowing these Chinese firms to build our new 5G infrastructure or any of the equipment that's in it either. And here's the quote from the order. I further find that unrestricted acquisition or use in the United States of bulk power system electric equipment designed, developed, manufactured, or supplied by persons owned by, controlled by, or subject to the jurisdiction or direction of foreign adversaries augments the ability of the foreign adversaries to create and exploit vulnerabilities in bulk power system electric equipment with potentially catastrophic effect. And I think he's right. We're seeing these power grids, water grids, etc. being attacked, and much of it's coming through the Internet of Things that I keep warning people about. It's just absolutely amazing. So let's go back. I went and checked in the news because I had heard about what had happened over in Israel. And this is May 7th. Okay, so this week, this is very, very recent. Israel is blaming, as is the U.S., Iran for a widespread cyber attack on Israeli water and sewage facilities during April. This was a report that came out from Fox News on Thursday. And according to the report, Iran used American servers to hack into the facilities. And I've talked about this now for 20 years. And this whole part of it just really bothers me. They used American servers. Most of the time when the bad guys are using American servers, using American computers, what they've actually done is they have compromised a server. 20 years ago, we were talking about how Al-Qaeda was videotaping the beheading of Americans and distributing them worldwide using American servers. Isn't that amazing? It's shocking. It should be shocking anyways to all of us. But that's what they were doing. And they were using servers that they had hijacked. And now here we are 20 years later, and Iran is using these servers to attack. We know that our servers here, our desktops, are being used. They're being compromised and then used to do denial of service attacks, many other types of attacks out there. So it looks like President Trump might have been a little bit ahead of the game here. I'm looking at the article here that I'm seeing on the Jerusalem Post. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the issue at last year's Cybertech conference in Tel Aviv, saying that Iran is attacking Israel on a daily basis. We monitor it and prevent it every day. They are threatening in other ways. What is important is that every country can be attacked, and each country needs a combination of defense and attack capabilities, and Israel has such ability. So think that through a little bit. I know here in the U.S. we have the ability to attack back. No question about that. Now, I also found online over at Analytics India magazine online, and this is from a couple of weeks back, 3 weeks ago. Cyber attacks on critical infrastructure of India is a worrying trend. So let's see, we've got the U.S. that we know has had our critical infrastructure attacked. We know Iran appears to be responsible for Israeli critical infrastructure attacks, and according to the Prime Minister, they're being attacked daily. We've got India, and here's another one. This is the Czech Republic. This is just a quick search that I did online to find out who's been attacked lately. And this is from April 20th, so about 3 weeks ago. Attempted cyber attacks against several hospitals and an airport in the Czech Republic show the coronavirus pandemic has not slowed down the West's digital adversaries. So the leaders over in the Czech Republic are saying that they were able to stop these attacks, but they're getting more highly sophisticated attacks all of the time. Czech's top cybersecurity agency has warned it expected imminent serious cyber attacks against its healthcare sector aimed at disabling computers and destroying data. So in many cases, it's ransomware. In fact, that's the number one threat right now against our businesses in the U.S. It's still ransomware. Can you believe it? It is still ransomware. We are still not protecting ourselves and our business. It just drives me nuts. And that's why we're going to do some more training about this in the next few weeks here. This is particularly problematic right now because we are in the middle of a pandemic. We do have hospitals trying to treat patients, and they are under attack, and they are getting ransomware. And some of these big ransomware bad guys out there have said, oh, no, we're not going to. If we do take control accidentally of a hospital's computers, we're just going to release it right away. We're not going to hold them ransom. And yet they have been. So be very careful, everybody. This is not going away anytime soon. They are going to continue to attack us. So when we get back, let's talk about something fun here. Let's talk about what the James Dyson Foundation is doing for our kids. You're listening to Craig Peterson here on WGAN and online, craigpeterson.com/subscribe. Make sure you get my weekly newsletter so you keep on top of all of these news stories for the week. And I'll be on with Matt Wednesday at 7:30.